Hi everyone, and welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. I last did a Discipline Priest beginner video, and I thought I would try it for the Holy Priest as well. I might also do it for the Shadow Priest. However, I don't play Shadow as much, so I might also need a beginner guide to also just prompt myself. So it could be like a relationship where we're both learning at the same time. I just noticed that the cloud in the background, it kind of looks like deer with like the antler. But anywho, just as with the Discipline Priest, I'm going to try to explain the abilities in layman's terms. So without further ado, let's get into the damaging, then into our healing, then our cooldowns, and of course, utility. So starting out with the Holy Priest, we have our basic cookie cutter smite, which does damage and has a 20% chance to reset the cooldown on Holy Fire, which is our next ability. Holy Fire is a basic damage over time ability, or a dot. You cast this and it takes some burning damage. Thirdly, we have our first holy word that we are going to be bringing up, which is Holy Word Chastise. This will deal a moderate amount of damage and stun the target for 4 seconds. Now, I said the first of the holy words. For the Holy Priest, they have a fun little skill category known as Holy Words, which are a huge part of their toolkit. Next up, we have Holy Nova, which is a combination of damage and healing. I would classify it as more of a damaging ability because it does more damage than it does healing. The healing is nice, but it of course isn't amazing. And this of course also has a 20% chance to reset Holy Fire, with Smite also doing so. So those are our 4 damage abilities, which are our bread and butter. And now we'll look at some of the healing. So the first 3 skills here are single target. The next 3 are area of effect, and this final one is a heal over time. So I'll first be going in the single target department with heal. It's very, very basic. You can probably guess what it does just by the name. It does a heal. That's all it really does. Of course, the numbers will scale based on your gear and your overall level. And there's not much more to say. It has a moderate cast time, longer, but it does a trusty heal. Next up, we have Flash Heal, and similar to Heal, it does just that. It flashes a heal on the target. The main difference between Heal and Flash Heal is that Flash Heal has a shorter cast time. It's much quicker in its activation, but it costs more mana. This costs 1,000 mana. This costs only 684, so about 700 mana. Next up, we have our next holy word, which is Holy Word Serenity, which is the single target holy word, which does a huge heal on a single target. For this one, it does 10,000. Well, and a crit, it does 21,000. So it is fairly chunky. Now, with the holy words, they have long cooldowns, but they typically have a catch. For Holy Word Serenity, it says below the actual text, it says cooldown is reduced by 6 seconds when you cast heal or flash heal. So if you look at Holy Word Serenity, I'm going to cast heal and it chunks down a little bit. You get a reduced cooldown for 6 seconds. So if you are focusing on single targets, and someone is on low health, you can cast Serenity and then just keep single target healing them and quickly get the cooldown to be reduced. And then see right there, it's already back off cooldown and ready for me to use. Moving on to our AoE section. It's our 3 skills. We have Prayer of Healing. This is your basic trusty heal. It's AoE healing. See, it affects multiple people. It does have quite the hefty mana cost with AoE skills, because you are of course healing multiple people. So if you're a beginner, I would say use this sparingly. Don't spam it, because when I was a beginner and I first started doing Holy Priest, I would just spam this and I would go out of mana and I'd be like, oh, what do I do now? Next up, we have Prayer of Mending. Before I cast this, I'm going to explain it. This one is a little bit more fun and unique in terms of its healing. What it does is you will cast this on a single target, and when that target is receiving damage, it will heal them, and then Prayer of Mending, the skill, will jump to another target, and then will be on them until they receive damage, and then we'll jump to another one. So if we cast this, hopefully the animation will explain what it does. So we're casting it on one target, pops, and then goes to another one, another one, another one, and another one. They're all clumped up over there, so you won't see too much of an animation bouncing back and forth. But if I go over here, you probably can see the animation a bit better. Bounce, 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 and it just keeps bouncing, and it's really, really nice. Next up, we have Holy Word Sanctify, which is our Holy Word AoE heal. It has such a beautiful animation and skill effect, which they recently updated, and I'm so glad that they did. So this is what it looks like. A big pool of light bursts up and does some nice healing. So with this, much like a Holy Word Serenity, it has a catch. So for this, the cooldown is reduced by 6 seconds when you cast Prayer of Healing, which is this skill. And if you look, it chunks it down a little bit. So 6 seconds if you use Prayer of Healing, and 2 seconds if you cast Renew, which is our heal over time. If it casts here, it chunks it down a little bit, not as much as Prayer of Healing, but still better than nothing. Speaking of Renew is pretty straightforward. You cast it on a target, and it just continually ticks up healing, and it's nice. It's definitely not the strongest ability, but if you're in a scenario where you are focusing one person and you see an ally who is not necessarily in trouble but has just a little bit of health missing, sometimes I'll pop it on them and just let it heal up a little bit, just so I have peace of mind. Next up, we're going to be looking at our cooldowns, which holy priests do have a fair amount of cooldowns in their toolkit. First up, we have Divine Hymn, which is a AoE party heal, which heals allies for a set over a time span of 6.7 seconds. Additionally, it also increases their healing by 10% for 8 seconds. So this is what it looks like, just ticking up heals. Everyone should be affecting everyone in range, and it's pretty strong. And with the additional effect of increasing healing, it's really nice in a raiding scenario because your other healers will also be able to do quite a bit of healing as well. Next up, we have Symbol of Hope. This regenerates casters' mana by 2% over 6 seconds. So this is what it looks like. This is good for your mages, your druids, your other healers as well, and it's overall very useful. So I would make sure, especially in a raiding scenario where you have a lot of people, to save this when it's needed. And if you're in a professional/hardcore raiding group, the raid leader should communicate with you, or you can ask them if you need to use it, and they should tell you. Next up, we have Guardian Spirit, which this tooltip does look quite daunting as there's a lot of text, but in layman's terms, it's basically preventing them from dying. It will apply a Guardian Spirit on them for 10 seconds, which increases their healing by 60%. And if they were to take fatal damage, they would be healed for 40% of their health, basically saving them from a situation which could kill them. Which I don't know if you can cast it on here, but we'll try it. See, there you go, and then a large heal. Next up, we have Desperate Prayer, which is a self-heal. You cannot use this on another target. This is mostly just for your own surviving for dangerous situations. It will heal you for 25%, or it will increase your maximum health by 25% for 10 seconds, and will also heal you for 25%. So here, nice heal, 8,000, and increases your maximum health by 25%. The next two skills are talents. So they are by no means mandatory. However, I have taken them as I think that they are quite strong and might be useful for beginners and just to practice with them slowly. So Apotheosis, in its execution and in its functionality, might be a little tricky for new players, But basically what it does is for the next 20 seconds, it increases the cooldown reduction to your holy words by 300% and also reduces their mana cost by 100. So if we use, say, Sanctify and then Serenity and then pop into Apotheosis, the skills that reduce its cooldown are increased dramatically. So here, Heal, it already chunked it down to half and then almost back to full. Pretty much back to full. And then for Sanctify, if we use Prayer of Healing, chunks the Sanctify back up and it's already back off cooldown. So this does last for 20 seconds. I would think, and I would say in my personal opinion, it's a really strong skill. I think 20 seconds is the perfect amount of time for situations. It could, of course, could be stronger if they allowed it to be 300, or not 300 seconds. That would be insane, but like 30 seconds. But I think 20 is a nice spot, at least in my experience. Next up is Circle of Healing. It's a very basic AoE heal. And this is mostly for an instant cast heal if you are in a situation which is getting a little uncomfortable and people are taking a lot of damage and you don't necessarily have Holy Word Sanctify or you don't have the time to cast Prayer of Healing. I just pop Circle of Healing and it's a fairly chunky AoE heal. And of course is a talent, so it's not baseline. Next up, we have our utilities, which is Fade. It removes your threat for 10 seconds. Mind Control to control someone. Mass Dispel is to get rid of harmful effects on multiple people in a situation. And then Purify is to get rid of a nasty effect on a single ally. So here, dispelling one person, you get that swirl. And then Mass Dispel is everyone in this large area. And of course, Leap of Faith, which pulls a friendly ally to you, and Power Word Fortitude, which is your basic buff to increase your stamina by 10%. So those are the cookie cutter, bread and butter skills that I think everyone should have. Now I'm going to move into the talents. Now these talents are going to be for newer players. I think these are probably going to be the best in terms of, a lot of them are passive. So they're simple. It's not like you have a million buttons to press. And I think Holy Priest already has a lot of buttons that you have to use. So this might help newer players ease into it just a little bit. But of course, if you have differing opinions on what could be beginner friendly, I would love to hear them in the comment section. First up, we have Enlightenment, which increases your mana regeneration by 10%. Pretty simple. And it's nice because sometimes you might go out of mana if you are spamming larger heals. Angel's Mercy, which reads, damage you take reduces the cooldown of Desperate Prayer based on the amount of damage taken. So overall, this will affect Desperate Prayer, which is down here. Cosmic Ripple. When your Holy Word Serenity or Holy Word Sanctify finishes their cooldown, you emit a burst of light that heals up to 5 injured targets for a amount of healing. Now you might have seen this animation when I was going over the skills. It was basically that little burst of light. So if we use Serenity right here, and I'm just going to start spamming Flash Heal to reduce the cooldown. Actually, let me go into Apotheosis and further increase it. And then one more should do it. And that little effect is this Cosmic Ripple. I think it is fine in the 45 tier. I believe it was somewhere in the 100 tier, but it really wasn't working. I think this does fit in terms of keeping the heals up. Next here, we have Crowd Control. I'm just taking Psychic Voice, which I did not actually put on the bar, which is my fault. If I can see it. Psychic Scream. This is affecting Psychic Voice affects Psychic Scream. This is just to get people off of you. But in a healing scenario, it might not be as useful unless a lot of enemies are attacking you and the tank isn't pulling them. Circle of Healing, I had mentioned and explained. Pretty simple heal. Other ones, Binding Heal. This will heal a selected target and yourself. It's pretty nice. And it reduces the cooldown of both Serenity and Sanctify by 3 seconds. Surge of Light, this is good if you are still having issues with mana. This will have an 8% chance to cause your next flash heal to be instant and cost no mana. For our 90 tier, we have Benediction. Your Prayer of Mending has a 30 chance to leave a renew on each target it heals. And this, your Prayer of Mending, is of course the one that bounces between your allies. And I'm not sure if any of them actually triggered renew. I still might think, part of me thinks that the 30% chance is a little low for the 90 tier. Maybe if it was like 35 or 40, then it could be a little bit more comfortable. But the other half of me does think 30% is okay. Next up for our 100 tier, we have Light of the Naru. The cooldowns of your holy words are reduced by additional 33% when you cast the relevant spells. So if we see here, if we use Serenity and then go flash heal, it should take it down even further, which it does. It's nice to know. Apotheosis, which is that state where it's just like 300% better, but it is a limited cooldown. This is more passive, while this is more active. And then Holy Word Salvation heals all allies within 40 yards for a moderate or a large amount, depending on your level and your gear, and applies Renew and 2 stacks of Prayer Mending to each of them. And then the cooldown is reduced by 30 seconds when you cast Holy Word Serenity or Holy Word Sanctify. So if we quickly pop this on, this is going in my 5th skill. If we just Holy Word Salvation, pop. Wow. That does, in terms of the target dummies, it does quite a bit of stuff. And then when we use our Holy Words, the cooldown is chunked down a bit. It does have a 12-minute cooldown, which is a long time. But I think if you juggle everything correctly, you can get this down to a decent cooldown. Maybe even like 10 minutes could be better. I don't know. I'm still not sure how I feel. I can't change that talent because it's on cooldown. Wonderful. So those were all of my skills that I'm taking and my talent descriptions. I described the other talents which I feel like have more of an option, but the lower level talents are of course yours to slowly get used to, but I think the 90 and the 100 talents should be explained. Divine Star and Halo were both in the Discipline Priest video. Divine Star is a linear AoE heal, and then Halo is a big AoE heal around the character. So those are all my talent descriptions and my basic cookie cutter abilities, and yeah, I hope you guys experienced some insight. If not, congratulations, you're already pro. But I will now transition to a little bit of gameplay that I have and just quickly show you what it looks like to be in a scenario where you need to heal. So I'll see you guys over on the gameplay side. Hey everyone, and welcome over to my dungeon gameplay. Just like to preface that this was my first time playing the Holy Priest in Battle for Azeroth without any add-ons. I'm trying to have this beginner experience myself and just strip myself of a bunch of add-ons. So I haven't downloaded any in the beta. So I did fat finger a couple keys and just had issues, but I hope you can forgive me. So you can see in the background, I am doing pretty much all that I can. Thankfully, my tank was really good and didn't take too much damage, but you can see me popping some renews, doing some healing on the tank. Right there, I had popped my Prayer of Healing to get just some AoE heals. And of course, when you're affected with something, make sure you don't stand next to everyone. It's a smart point to carry on in your World of Warcraft career. So of course, as a healer, you're always looking at people's party frames. And then I believe I see this person who is a little on the low end. And so I pop Holy Word Serenity to burst up their health bar. And of course, getting some more minor healing with the Cosmic Ripple talent. And overall, having a fairly easy time. But yeah, other than that, renewing Prayer of Mending if I can, and of course smiting. I know that's probably a lot of something that not all healers think about, but if you're not healing, you can of course do some damage and just help out a little bit, because like the more damage you have, the faster the boss goes down, the quicker you get your rewards. And then here I just wanted to mention that the boss does immobilize some of your allies. So even as a healer, even though you're still healing everyone up and using your heals, your AoE prayer of mendings and your prayer of healings and all that stuff, you still have to be focused on what is happening to your teammates and damage and get them out of situations if you can. But pretty simple. Heal, keep your mana up, renew, just make sure people don't die, and use the cooldown if you need to. Thankfully, I didn't really need to. There's a large AoE heal, and I love holy word, sanctify, that large AoE. But thank you everyone so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like the video if you liked it, comment down below what your thoughts on the Holy Priest are, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye everyone.